The great colony ship moved slowly through the dark sea of stars, its giant metal body shining like a silver arrow in the endless black sky. The engines hummed low, and the crew inside worked in silence, far away from home, far away from Earth. The ship carried families, workers, scientists, and children, all dreaming of a new world waiting for them across the void. But tonight, something strange happened, something none of them expected. The scanners picked up a small signal, very weak, almost gone, like a whisper from the deep. At first, the crew thought it was just noise, maybe a broken piece of rock, maybe an old satellite drifting in the dark. But the signal did not fade. It pulsed softly again and again, almost like a heartbeat. The captain, an old man with sharp eyes, gave the order to change course. The ship turned slowly toward the signal, and everyone held their breath. The great black window showed nothing but stars, yet the crew could feel it. Something was out there, waiting. Minutes later, they found it, a small pod, no bigger than a room, drifting without power. Its surface cracked and burned as if it had survived fire in battle. The pod was alien, no human hand had built it. The design was smooth, curved, almost alive in shape. The crew gathered near the viewing bay, staring at the strange object, their faces filled with fear and wonder. Was it dangerous? Was it a weapon? Or was it something lost and helpless? No one knew. But the silence of space pressed heavy on their hearts. Inside the crowd stood a boy, no more than 8 years old, holding his mother's hand, his wide eyes fixed on the pod. He felt something the adults could not hear, a sound softer than a whisper, a sound like crying. The pod was brought into the docking bay, locked inside the cold chamber, lights shining bright upon it. The metal shell of the pod was cracked open in places, and through one gap came a faint sound, a sound that made every human freeze in place. It was a cry, weak and thin like the cry of a baby. The captain frowned, his voice deep and firm. No one opens it, not until we know what it is. The scientists rushed forward with their machines, scanning the pod, searching for heat, searching for life, searching for danger. The screen showed a small shape inside, small and fragile, moving just a little, almost too weak to breathe. The crew whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with fear. "A trap," said one man, his eyes narrow. "Aliens send such tricks, they use pity as a weapon." "Or maybe it is sick," said another. "If we open it, we bring death to all of us." The boy, standing behind them, pulled on his mother's sleeve, his voice soft. "It is a baby, I can hear it. It is scared." His mother shook her head, pulling him close. "Stay back. Do not go near it." But the boy's eyes did not leave the pod. He felt something inside, something innocent, something in pain. The pod made another sound, a weak cry like a small creature calling for help. The chamber grew colder. The crew grew restless. No one moved closer. No one wanted to take the risk. Yet the sound kept coming, soft, weak, almost fading. The boy let go of his mother's hand and stepped forward slowly, carefully, his small shoes echoing against the metal floor. The crew gasped. Some called out to stop him, but the boy did not listen. He walked straight to the pod, his eyes fixed on the small gap in the metal shell. He leaned close, and for a moment the sound grew clearer, not only a cry but a breath, a trembling breath. "Fragile and cold," the boy whispered. "It is alive, it needs help." The crew froze, torn between fear and pity. No one wanted to touch the pod, no one wanted to risk it. Yet here was a child, unafraid, standing before the unknown, listening with a heart pure and open. The captain stepped forward, his heavy boots echoing, his eyes on the boy. The silence in the chamber grew deeper, broken only by the faint cry from inside the pod. The captain spoke slowly, his voice low. "Bring the med team, but keep the chamber sealed." The crew obeyed, but their eyes stayed on the boy, the only one who dared to step closer, the only one who heard more than danger, the only one who saw life where others saw fear. In that moment, as the alien pod rested in human hands, the future of two worlds trembled on the edge of choice, and the story of a human child and an alien baby began in silence, in fear, and in hope. The cold chamber lights glowed white on the cracked alien pod. Shadows stretched long across the steel walls, and the crew stood in silence, their breaths tight in their throats. The weak cry from inside the pod was no longer just a sound. It was a call, soft, trembling, filled with fear. And yet no one moved forward except the boy who had dared to step close in the last moment. his small face pressed with curiosity and kindness, while the adults held back with doubt and fear. The cry grew weaker like a candle about to go out, and the mother pulled her child back quickly, wrapping her arms around him, whispering, "Stay away! You don't understand, it could be poison. It could be a trick." But the boy shook his head, his eyes never leaving the pod, whispering back, "It is a baby. It is scared. It needs help." The scientists checked their screens again. Strange symbols flickered across the pod's broken shell, glowing faintly like fading stars. The scanners showed heat but weak, the life signs inside almost gone. The shape was tiny, smaller than even a human infant, curled up in a fragile bundle, shivering, trembling, its breath shallow, and the debate among the adults grew louder. Some argued to open it and see. Others demanded to throw it back into space. Fear gripped their hearts, for they had fought wars with aliens. They had lost friends. They had buried families because of battles, and the thought of bringing one of them on board alive, even a baby, filled them with dread. Yet the cry from the pod kept cutting through their voices, soft, helpless, and heartbreaking, the sound of life begging not to die. The captain stood tall at the front, his eyes fixed on the pod, his jaw tight. He had seen many battles. He had lost trust in anything not human, but even his stern heart wavered at the sound. The boy's small hand tugged at his coat, the child looking up at him with eyes wide and honest. "Captain, please, it is not a soldier, it is not an enemy. It is just a baby." And the room fell into silence again. Every man and woman staring at the boy, a human child asking for mercy in a place where mercy was thin. Finally, the captain gave the order, his voice low but firm, "Open the outer layer, keep the chamber sealed. No one touches it without protection." And the crew obeyed, their hands shaking as they unlocked the clamps. The cracked shell hissed as it split wider. Steam rolled out like mist, and inside lay the truth, a small alien baby, no bigger than the boy's arms. Its skin pale blue, its body thin and weak, eyes closed, lips trembling, chest rising only in faint breaths, and on its tiny chest lay a glowing mark, a symbol burning faint but alive, like a piece of history clinging to survival. The crew gasped. Some stepped back in fear, others leaned forward in wonder, for the child inside looked fragile, innocent, not like the monsters they had fought in war, not like the shadows they feared in the dark. It looked lost, it looked alone, it looked as if it had no strength left to live. The scientists whispered fast, their voices rising. "It could infect us, it could carry something, it could kill us all." But the boy pressed against the glass wall, his small hand flat against the surface, whispering, "It is cold, it is crying, it is just like us. It just wants to be warm." And then something strange happened. The alien baby stirred weakly, its tiny hand reaching out not toward the scientists, not toward the captain, but toward the boy. Its weak eyes opened for a brief moment, strange glowing eyes filled with confusion and need, and they locked onto the boy's face as if it recognized him, as if in this vast universe of fear and war, it saw only safety in the small human standing there. And the cry softened, turning from sharp fear into quiet whimper, as if the child's presence was enough to bring a little peace. The captain clenched his fists, torn between fear and duty, between risk and compassion. The adults still argued, but their voices were hollow now, because deep in their hearts, they too saw the truth. This was not a weapon. This was not a trap. This was life, fragile and innocent, begging to be saved, and yet no one dared to step inside. No one but the boy, who whispered again, louder this time, "It is a baby. We cannot let it die." The mother pulled at his arm, afraid, desperate, but the boy stood firm, his small figure strong in the bright chamber light, his eyes locked on the alien baby that reached for him. The pod hummed faintly, the glow of the symbols fading slowly. The cry grew weaker once more, and the silence grew heavier than before, everyone watching, waiting, but no one brave enough to act. No one except a child who refused to see an enemy where there was only a baby. And in that moment, in that fragile chamber, with the universe watching in silence, the future turned on the smallest of cries, and the choice of whether to save or to abandon was no longer only in the hands of the captain or the crew, but in the heart of a human child who could not turn away. The alien baby lay inside the cracked pod, its pale blue skin shivering, its chest rising in weak and shallow breaths. The glowing mark on its body flickered faintly like a dying star, and the sound of its cry was softer now, fading with every passing moment. The crew stood in silence, their eyes full of fear and doubt. No one dared to move closer. No one dared to touch it. For in their minds this was still alien. This was still unknown. This was still dangerous. But to the human boy who stood near the glass, it was not an enemy, it was not a monster. It was not a threat, it was simply a baby, helpless and cold. The boy pressed his forehead against the glass, his breath fogging the surface. His small hands spread wide as if he wished he could reach through, and his eyes filled with something no scanner could measure. Compassion pure and strong, and in that compassion he saw not danger but need. He saw not fear but sadness, and his heart whispered louder than all the shouts of warning around him. Help it, do not let it die. His mother pulled at his arm again, whispering in panic. Stay away. You will get sick, you will get hurt. You don't know what it is, but the boy shook his head, his voice soft but firm. It is cold. It needs warmth. And then he looked down at the only thing he carried, the small blanket wrapped around his shoulders, a simple piece of cloth, old and faded but soft, warm, and filled with the comfort of home. The boy slowly pulled it off, holding it in his hands, his fingers gripping it tight, for it was the blanket that had kept him safe on long nights, the blanket that smelled of his home far behind them, the blanket that was his shield in the vast and lonely ship. And yet he lifted it without hesitation, his eyes fixed on the baby inside the pod, whispering to the captain, to the crew, to anyone who would listen, please give it this, it will help, it will live. The crew gasped, their voices rising. No, it is too dangerous, it could be contaminated, it could harm the child. But the boy stepped forward, his small body blocking their path, his blanket clutched in his arms, his voice stronger now. It is dying, if we wait, it will be gone, please. Let me give it my blanket. The captain's eyes narrowed, his mind torn in two. Logic shouted danger, fear shouted trap, but something inside him stirred when he saw the boy's face. So young, so sure, so brave, and the cry from the alien baby filled the chamber again. Soft, weak, breaking hearts even in those who tried not to feel. And slowly, with a heavy sigh, the captain gave a nod, his voice low. Seal the boy in protective gear. Let him place it, but be ready if anything goes wrong. The crew rushed to prepare, slipping a small protective suit over the boy, his face shining through the clear visor, his hands trembling but determined. And then the chamber door slid open with a hiss, the air inside heavy and cold, the pod glowing faintly, the alien baby whimpering weakly, and the boy stepped inside, carrying his blanket like a treasure, his footsteps small but strong, echoing in the silence of the chamber. He knelt beside the pod, his visor fogging as he leaned closer, and the alien baby's glowing eyes opened just a little, fixing on him, its tiny hand twitching weakly, reaching as if it recognized the one who had listened, the one who had not turned away. And the boy gently laid his blanket over the small, fragile body, tucking it softly, the cloth wrapping the baby in warmth and comfort, in the feeling of home. For a long moment, nothing happened. The crew held their breath, their fingers tight on the controls, fear biting their hearts. But then the alien baby let out a soft sigh. Its trembling stopped, its breathing grew steadier, and the glow on its chest flickered brighter. Like a flame finding new life, its eyes closed again, not in weakness but in peace, and it rested, wrapped in the gift of a human child. The chamber was silent. No cries, no alarms, only the sound of calm breathing, the baby sleeping for the first time without fear. And the boy sat beside it, his gloved hand resting gently on the edge of the pod, his eyes soft, his voice a whisper. You are safe now. You are not alone. The captain's stern face cracked, not with fear but with something softer, something he had buried deep after too many wars. The crew stared in awe, for they had seen machines fail, weapons destroy, ships burn. But here they saw something stronger than all of it, the simple act of kindness from a child, a gift of warmth in the cold of space. And in that moment, as the alien baby slept in peace wrapped in a human blanket, the crew realized that the future might not be written by soldiers or captains, but by children who saw life where others saw fear, who offered love where others offered war. And though they did not say it aloud, in their hearts they knew something had changed, something small yet powerful, something that could shape the destiny of more than one world. The chamber was quiet. The alien baby slept at last, wrapped in the boy's blanket, its small chest rising and falling in steady rhythm, its glowing mark beating like a tiny light in the dark. The crew stood outside the glass wall, watching in silence, their fear softened but not gone, for even in peace the unknown carried weight, and they did not yet understand what they had brought aboard. The captain ordered the scientists to scan the pod again. Their machines whirred. Lights blinked. Data scrolled across the screens. And then something strange happened. Symbols appeared, glowing on the inside walls of the pod. Not random scratches, but patterns, lines, and shapes that repeated like language. Faint at first, then brighter. Pulsing as if alive, the crew leaned closer, whispering to each other. It's a message. It's trying to say something. The ship's AI was called to decode. Its voice calm and cold. It analyzed the strange glowing marks, comparing them to every known tongue, every code, every signal, and slowly, piece by piece, it began to form meaning. Words took shape. Not complete, not perfect, but enough to chill the hearts of all who listened. Last, survivor, protect. Knowledge, save. The chamber fell into silence, every human hearing the same truth. This baby was not just a life to save, it was the last breath of an entire people. The boy, still sitting close to the pod, looked up at the captain with wide eyes. It is the last one, we cannot leave it, we must help it. His voice soft but certain. The child understood before the adults could. He did not think of politics or war or risk. He thought only of the baby wrapped in his blanket, the baby who had reached for him, the baby who now carried the weight of a lost race. But not everyone agreed. The first officer stepped forward, his voice sharp. Captain, this is dangerous if this is true. If the child is the last of them, then whoever destroyed its people will come for it. They will track it, they will track us. Keeping it here is not mercy. It is suicide. His words struck fear again. Murmurs spread among the crew, their hope shaken, their old fears returning. The scientist argued as well. If the pod carries knowledge, it could be weapon designs. It could be secrets that destroy us. We cannot risk the ship, the families, the mission. And voices clashed in the chamber, louder and louder, fear against pity, survival against compassion, until only the boy's voice cut through it all. Then what makes us human if we turn away, if we let it die? Are we no better than the war that killed its people? The captain's eyes burned, his hands clenched tight, for he knew the boy's words carried more weight than all the fear around them. But still his duty pressed heavy. The crew looked to him, waiting. The decision hung in the air, sharp as a blade, and before he could speak, the pod glowed again, brighter this time. The symbols shifted, forming new words, clearer now. Danger, hunters, near, hide. The ship shuddered as alarms rang. The scanners picked up movement in the distance. Fast, sharp, metallic, a ship not human, not friendly, cutting through the dark like a blade. The crew's blood ran cold. The pod had warned them. The hunters were already close. The captain gave orders fast. Power down. Hide in the nebula. No transmissions. The crew rushed to obey. Lights dimmed, engines cooled. The great ship drifted into the shadow of a thick nebula cloud, where stars vanished and silence grew deep, but even in hiding, the fear gnawed at them. For if the hunters searched, if they found the alien baby here, they would not stop until every human aboard was destroyed. Inside the chamber, the baby stirred, its eyes glowing faintly in the dark, and once again it looked toward the boy, as if it knew who had given it warmth, as if it trusted him alone. And the boy placed his hand on the glass, whispering, "I will protect you. I promise." His words soft but strong, a vow carried in the silence of space. The captain watched, torn between the cold logic of survival and the burning spark of hope the boy carried. And in that moment, he saw something he had not seen in years, the courage of innocence, the power of kindness, and he knew this was no longer just about orders. This was about something greater, something that could change the course of history, if they lived long enough to see it. The alien symbols dimmed slowly, their warning given, their truth revealed, and the crew stood trapped between fear and choice, their hearts pounding as the shadow of the hunter ship grew closer in the dark, and the only light that kept their hope alive was the faint glow of the baby's mark, and the soft belief of a human child who would not let go. The colony ship floated in silence, hidden deep inside the heavy clouds of the nebula. The stars outside were swallowed by thick swirls of dust and gas. The lights on the ship dimmed low, every system running quiet. The crew spoke in whispers, as if even their voices could betray them, because out there, cutting through the dark, the hunters searched, their sharp ships moving like blades through water, fast, deadly, patient, and the humans knew one mistake, one sound, would bring death. The scanners flickered with faint signals, shadows moving closer. The hunter ship was large, its shape strange, jagged, built for war. Its engines pulsed like a beating heart, and each pulse echoed through the human ship's sensors like a drum of doom. The captain stood tall, but his eyes were heavy, his crew stiff with fear. No one dared to breathe too loud. No one dared to move too fast, for they were prey hiding from the predator, and the predator was close. Inside the chamber, the alien baby stirred. The glow on its chest faint but alive, it whimpered softly, the cry weak but sharp in the quiet ship. And the crew froze, their eyes snapping toward the sound, their hearts skipping beats, for even that soft cry might betray them if the hunters were listening. And the mother of the boy pressed her hand to her mouth, tears in her eyes, whispering, "It will give us away. It will kill us all." But the boy moved closer to the pod. His face calm, though his body trembled. He placed his hand against the glass, his voice a soft hum, a lullaby from his childhood, a song his mother once sang to him when nightmares woke him in the night. And the alien baby listened, its glowing eyes half opening, its breathing slowing, its body relaxing under the warmth of the human voice, and the cry faded, replaced by silence, replaced by trust, and the crew, though still afraid, looked at the boy with something more than fear, with something close to hope. The hunter's ship passed closer, its shadow covering the human vessel. Sensors screamed danger. The crew sat frozen at their posts, hands hovering over controls they dared not touch. One wrong move, one burst of energy, and they would be found. The captain's voice came low. "Steady. No engines, no signals, wait." And the crew obeyed, sweat on their brows, fear in their hearts, the ship drifting like a ghost in the mist. Through the wide window, some saw the hunter ship at last, its jagged hull scarred with battles, its weapons glowing faint red, scanning beams shooting into the nebula, searching, always searching like hungry eyes in the dark. And the boy pressed his small body against the glass of the chamber, holding his hand where the baby could see it, whispering, "Do not cry, do not be afraid, I am here." And the baby's tiny hand lifted weakly, pressing back against the pod's wall as if answering, as if saying, "I trust you." The minutes dragged like hours, every tick of the clock heavy with danger. The hunter ship slowed, its beams scanning dangerously close, brushing against the human hull. Alarms blinked silently. The crew held their breath. The captain's hand hovered over the controls, ready to make the choice, ready to fight if discovery came, though he knew they stood no chance. Their ship was built for travel, not for war, and if the hunters fired, there would be no escape. Then, without warning, the alien symbols on the pod flickered again, glowing brighter, shifting into new patterns. The AI translated fast, its voice shaking. "Hide, danger, silence, survive." And the crew obeyed the unspoken command, staying still, staying quiet as the hunters moved past, their weapons scanning the cloud one last time before turning away, their engines burning like red eyes in the distance until finally the signals faded, and the human ship was alone again in the nebula's embrace. The crew let out breaths they had held too long. Some dropped to their knees, others pressed their heads into their hands, relief and fear mixing heavy in their chests. And the captain closed his eyes for one long moment before opening them again, his voice low. "We live for now." But his gaze turned to the boy and the alien baby, for he knew the danger was not gone, it had only begun. The boy stroked the glass gently, his blanket still wrapped around the alien baby, who now slept quietly, safe in the warmth, unaware of the danger it carried. And the boy whispered again, "You are safe. I will keep you safe." His words carrying not only to the baby but to the hearts of the crew, who had seen death hover close, and had seen life hold on by a thread woven not by fear, but by the simple love of a child. And deep in the nebula, as silence returned, the humans knew the hunters would come again. The baby was a beacon, a secret, a prize, and the choice to protect it would not only test their courage, it would shape their future, for shadows in space did not fade, they always returned, hungrier than before. The nebula wrapped the colony ship in its dark arms. The hunters had passed for now, but the silence they left behind was heavy. Every crew member knew the danger was not over, only delayed. The alien baby slept in its pod, wrapped in the human boy's blanket, the glow on its chest flickering steady like a heartbeat, and the boy sat near it, his small eyes calm, his voice soft as he whispered stories to keep the fragile life at peace. But outside that quiet corner, the ship was a storm of fear and anger. The officers gathered in the command hall, their voices sharp, echoing through the steel walls. "We cannot keep it, the hunters will return. They will track us, we are not a warship, we cannot fight," one officer shouted, his fist slamming the table. "We are carrying families, children. We cannot risk them for one alien baby," another argued, her voice cold. "Even if it looks harmless, We do not know what it is. What if it grows into something dangerous? What if it carries disease? What if it is not a victim but a weapon waiting to wake? The room filled with fear dressed as reason. Voices rising, hearts closing. The captain stood at the center, silent, his face heavy with the weight of command. He had led men into battles before. He had made choices that cost lives, but this was different. This was not about soldiers or enemies. This was about a baby, small and helpless. This was about a human boy who had shown courage when adults had not, and his mind fought with itself. Duty against compassion, survival against mercy. But before he could speak, the door hissed open, and the boy stepped inside. He stood small among giants, but his voice carried more than theirs. You all speak of danger, of fear, of war, but look at it. It is just a baby. It does not know war. It only knows cold and hunger. It only knows fear. And you speak of throwing it away as if it is nothing. His eyes moved across the faces of men and women older, stronger yet weaker in spirit. If we leave it, if we let it die, then we are no better than those hunters out there. We are no better than the war that killed its people. The room fell silent, the officers shifting uneasily, their arguments cracking under the weight of a child's words. The boy's mother rushed forward, her hand on his shoulder, her voice trembling. Please do not speak, you do not understand the danger. But he turned to her, his eyes bright with something beyond his years. I do understand. I understand that it needs me. I understand that if we turn away, we lose what makes us human. The captain's chest tightened. His hand clenched around the edge of the table, his mind flashing with the images of battles lost, friends buried, hope fading, but then his eyes turned to the boy, to the blanket wrapped around the alien baby, to the fragile bond formed not by guns, not by orders, but by kindness, and he knew the boy was right. He knew this choice would define not just survival, but their humanity. Yet the risk was real. The scanners now showed the hunters circling back, their ship moving closer again. Engines burning red, weapons armed. The crew panicked, alarms blared. The time for debate was gone. The captain had to decide. Eject the pod into the void and save the ship, or protect the baby and fight against the impossible. He turned to his officers, his voice strong. We are not soldiers here. We are not at war here. We are guardians of life. And if we sacrifice this child for our fear, then we have already lost. I will not let us lose our humanity. His words cut through the fear. The crew stared at him, stunned, some with hope, some with doubt, but none could argue because deep inside, they too felt the truth. The boy smiled faintly, relief washing over his small face. He placed his hand against the glass wall of the chamber where the baby slept, whispering, "You are safe, I promised you." "And I will keep that promise," the alien baby stirred gently, as if it heard, as if it understood. But the hunters were coming. The ship shook with their approach. Red lights flashing across the walls, weapons locking. The humans had made their choice. Now they would pay the price, and the captain gave the final order. Prepare for battle. Prepare to protect the child. Prepare to protect what makes us human. And the crew, though afraid, moved with new purpose. Their fear no longer just for themselves, but for something greater. Something fragile, something worth saving. And as the hunters closed in, shadows looming over the small human ship, the crew stood ready. Not because they believed they could win, but because they believed in something stronger than fear, in the courage of a boy, in the innocence of a baby, in the hope that even in the darkest night, humanity could still choose compassion over survival. The silence of space trembled with the coming storm, and in that silence the fate of more than one world hung on the edge of a single choice, the human choice. The hunters came fast, their jagged ship cutting through the nebula like a beast-smelling prey. Red lights glowed on their weapons, engines thundered in silence, scanners locked onto the human vessel, and the colony ship shook under the weight of danger. Alarms rang, fear spread like fire, yet in the middle of it all the boy sat calm near the chamber, the alien baby still wrapped in his blanket, the glow on its chest steady like a heartbeat. And though war closed in, the bond of two children, one human, one alien, burned brighter than any weapon. The captain stood on the bridge, his voice strong, his orders sharp. Shields up. Prepare evasive maneuvers, prepare weapons even if they are weak. The crew moved fast, hands flying across consoles, their hearts racing, for they knew their ship was not built for battle. It was built for carrying families, for carrying dreams. Yet now it carried something greater, the last of a fallen race, and that meant the hunters would never stop. The boy pressed his hand against the glass wall of the chamber, whispering to the baby, "Do not be afraid, I am here." And the baby's tiny hand pressed weakly against the pod's surface, its glowing eyes opening just a little, and for a moment the ship seemed less cold, less afraid, because in that small gesture was hope. Hope that life could still matter in the middle of war. The hunter ship opened fire. Red beams of light slashed across the dark. The human ship shook. Metal groaned, sparks flew. Families screamed, officers shouted, but the captain's voice cut through the storm. "Hold steady. We will not give them what they want." His jaw tight, his eyes fierce, and the crew obeyed, though fear pulled at their souls. The boy's mother grabbed him, tears in her eyes. "We must hide, we must save ourselves." But the boy shook his head, his small voice strong. "If I leave, it will cry. If it cries, they will find us. I must stay. I must keep it calm." And though his mother's heart broke, she saw the truth. She saw her son standing braver than men twice his age, and she let him stay, her hand trembling on his shoulder. The alien symbols on the pod glowed suddenly, brighter than ever. Strange patterns racing across the surface. The AI translated fast, its voice urgent. "Path, jump now. Hidden gate, follow." The captain's eyes widened. He understood. The pod carried not just a child, but knowledge. Knowledge of secret routes through space. Knowledge of survival. And without hesitation he gave the order. "Engage engines. Follow the path." The ship roared to life, engines burning. The hunters fired again, beams cutting close. But the human ship darted through the nebulous thick clouds, following the glowing trail that appeared on their screens. A hidden path, a secret left by the alien race, guiding them through storms of dust and fire, guiding them toward escape. Every second the hunters chased, their weapons tearing holes in the dark. Every second the human ship shuddered, but still it pressed forward, carried by faith, carried by the will to protect life. The boy kept singing softly to the baby, his voice shaking but never stopping, and the baby listened, calm, quiet, safe in the blanket of warmth, as if the song itself was a shield stronger than metal, stronger than fire, a shield made of trust. Finally, the hidden gate appeared. A swirl of light, a tear in space, glowing like a doorway between stars. The captain shouted, "Full power now!" And the ship leapt forward, engines screaming. The hunters closed behind, their weapons glowing hot, but too late. The human ship vanished into the gate, swallowed by light, leaving the hunters slashing at empty dark. Silence returned, the ship drifting in a new region of space. Safe for now, the crew collapsed in relief, some crying, some laughing, all alive. And the captain looked at the chamber where the baby slept, wrapped in a human child's blanket, his voice low but full of wonder. "We survived because of it." "Because of them," the boy smiled, his eyes shining. "No, we survived because we chose not to be like them, because we chose to protect." And the captain, hardened by years of war, could not argue. He placed his heavy hand on the boy's shoulder, nodding with respect he had never given to any soldier. The alien baby sighed softly in its sleep, the glow on its chest steady, safe, alive, and though no one knew what future it would bring, though no one knew what danger still waited in the stars, they all felt something change, something new, as if the universe itself had shifted in that moment. A human child had given his blanket, an alien baby had accepted it, and from that simple act of kindness a bridge had been built, fragile but unbreakable, a bridge that carried not just two children but the hope of two worlds, maybe more. And as the ship sailed on into the unknown, every heart aboard knew they had witnessed the birth of a future born in a blanket.